Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wichmann Co Podcast. I am so excited. This is the fourth episode, and today we are talking about something that is super important for everybody, regardless if you are in corporate America, if you are retired, if you are in high school, or if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter. It's something that is super, super important, and most of us, forget all about it or ignore it. I don't really know how you want to say it, a combination thereof. My guest today is a doctor in physiotherapy, physical therapy. She's going to explain it herself. She's much better on doing that, and with a holistic angle on everything. Welcome to the show, Dr. Samantha Ritz.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. So excited to be here, share a little bit about me and my story, and I'm just excited to talk more with you.
Yes, thank you for being on this show. I am probably more excited because this I work EMS on the ambulance at my regular job, so I see kind of like all kinds of stuff going on with people and how you actually can improve it, even though me and my profession can't really help people more than on the emergent level, where you, in your job and your business, can really make a long lasting impact on a person's life and make it so much better. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Of course, yes. And I am all about sustainability, long term change. Of course, I'm a physical therapist by trade. I went and got my doctorate, a couple years ago. I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area in the States right now. And so after I got my doctorate, kind of did the traditional, sense where I went and worked in an outpatient clinic, what you think of when you think of physical therapy, and was able to see, everything under the sun. As a PT, you're really thinking on your feet. Nobody is the same. No diagnosis is the same. And really got my feet wet with that. And just did that for a couple years, but unfortunately got burnt out in that insurance healthcare model here in the States. And so then what I decided to do is start my own company where I was cash-based physical therapy. And I still do that and treat people mobily. I go to their homes. I played tennis in college, so I treat tennis and pickleball players. Absolutely love that, and was able to kind of operate outside of those insurance, model things, and have my own accountability and treat the way I wanted to treat. But I found that a lot of the patients that I was working with were, my women kind of in that 30s to 60s range, where for some reason on paper they're looking perfect. They take care of their health, they have good relationships, they're active, but I'm seeing them every 3 months for some different type of injuries. It was elbow, then it was a knee, then it's low back pain, and in my back of my mind, I'm wondering what's going on here. I mean, it's good for me and my business, making money, but at the end of the day, I want my patients to get better and feel good. So we took a look at the back end and what is not, what are the similar patterns I'm seeing across these ladies? And it was really like the routines and habits, my busy moms, my entrepreneurs, my C-suite ladies, my work from home ladies, right? Where they're doing so much for other people and they're very good at prioritizing other people's needs, and their needs are not being met at all because at the end of the day, they're exhausted and they take no time to take care of their own health and wellness, their meal plans, their workouts, their strength trainings, things like that. So I decided, all right, I am going to take this as a challenge, and I built a program to help women like that. And so that's where I'm at right now. I do virtual coaching. I help busy women simplify their fitness, making easy, sustainable changes. So after working with me for 3 months, you should be able to utilize this information for the rest of your life. So not coming back to see me again in 3 months.
That's awesome because I know I working in a professional job and I have my side business now, growing a podcast and this whole business side of it. I personally try to walk every day that I'm not on the ambulance because I work 24-hour shift, and I prioritize that. But I have to really, really make it a priority to get my butt out the door and go. And I think that a lot of people don't make that priority. It's so much easier to sit and scroll TikTok for 30 minutes or watch a TV series or do something else than prioritize your own health.
Exactly. And it's funny because I, look at these women's routines and they're insanely successful people. It's not that they're lazy or things like that where some people think that that's the issue. No, it's just, the accountability to themselves of saying, this is a priority in my life. And that was the piece that was missing of like, hey, I know you don't want to do this right now. This is not an attractive option to be doing, something, getting in the gym or meal prepping, but it's the necessary thing to have that long lasting change.
And when it comes to meal prepping, I am like, my crock pot is my best friend after ChatGPT. But I live that kind of life where I'm a lazy. I'm super lazy. And when it comes to food, it would like I am half broke. Like I don't want to spend money on fast food. I know it's not healthy. So I have meal prep for many, many years. And I bring food to me at work and I know where it's coming from. I know who prepared it. I know what's in it and I know it's somewhat good for me at least. Um, and my coworkers, they are half impressed with me that I'm doing it. And for me, it's so much easier. I don't understand why other people don't realize how easy it is to meal prep.
No, I get that. I Meal prepping is key. But yeah, some people it's the grab and go. It's the convenience. And I just think that, to talk a little bit on that is convenience is the way the world is going. Everything is built to be convenient for us, right? So what is convenient for you? And finding out, it's kind of, this is the detective role I play as a physical therapist, but also as a health coach is you kind of have to be a good detective of what is working, what are those little pieces of convenience that I can implement that now make these health habits very attractive for you. Versus if everything is inconvenient, it's just not going to happen. And that's a mistake I see a lot of my clients make.
And are your clients kind of like high achiever? To my understanding, is high achiever people who are really good at what they're doing, and but in one way they feel a little bit disconnected with what they want to, and a little bit like we could do this better. What was the moment when you realized that you have something to give their like that plan you're talking about that or the program? When did you realize that this is something that actually anybody can implement?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I came across this kind of client caseload where I was finding that I was seeing, these people, these high achievers, on paper where they're juggling so many things. And high achiever is, a relative term. I had someone ask me this question the other day. For me, a high achiever is someone you're running something, you're running a family, you're running a business, you're running up, your relationships, you have a successful career in something, right? You have successful hobbies. For me, that's a high achiever. They're getting stuff done, they're staying committed to something, in my mind. And I found that these people, they have systems in place already for external relationships, external people. They have no internal system. When it comes to them, the accountability goes out the window. The consistency goes out the window, right? Because they're staying accountable and consistent for so many other people or things in their life that you default down to the bottom of your personal health, your personal wellness, because you're thinking, okay, I'm getting all these external things done. That's how we're measuring success these days of what I look like externally, how I'm showing up externally. And then those internal systems really falter. So I had the idea, let's come back in, let's put priority back on our internal systems. I almost say it's if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, you have your operating systems, your standard operating, programs and procedures. And so I come back in and I build those for your internal self, which is, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, duh, I should already have those in place. But for some reason, that is not the case.
It's just not like priority. So what do you, in what experience, what do you feel specifically entrepreneurs, what is the biggest downfall or trap that they're walking straight into, and how do they get out of that habit or that downfall, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one thing that I see that is a huge red flag for me when I'm doing the case review or the audit on their life before we start working together is their calendar is booked. You can't even find 15 minutes on their calendar that's free. I mean, they're booking lunch, they're booking dinner, like everything is booked down to the minute. I know a lot of people that do this. I'm also guilty of it. My Google Calendar is my lifeblood. If it's not on my Google Calendar, it is not happening. I'm going to forget about it,
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah, it's a thing. But I found that when I'm doing that audit and they have nothing left, and you're already not doing anything for your health and wellness, where are we going to find the time, right? And that's where they're coming to me is like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. Well, if it was
You have to
important to
make
you,
time.
you would make time. And so I would say the biggest trap I see is that people schedule out every single minute of their day with business, with their hobbies, with their relationships, which is great. But if you can find that you can just say, okay, 1 hour, like I better have a 1 hour gap where there's nothing, I'm not even going to label it rest. I'm just going to have it free on my calendar. Then we're able to take that. Okay, what can we use with that hour? Now let's bring it back to us. I tell my clients, it's like we have to, for some of my clients, it's so severe where we have to schedule meetings. And the meeting is you get your butt in the gym, or the meeting is we're going to meal prep. But it's a meeting with yourself because they're so reliant on, like, they almost feel the self-worth, the productivity comes from my calendar has to be booked 24/7. So that's a big red flag trap I see.
And then what I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, people measure success on how their calendar looks. And they also, uh, myself included, don't prioritize their mental health because you're working so much, you're stressing so much, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're putting so much pressure on yourself because you want to succeed, you want to be better. So when you're not making your goals, you fall into that mental trap, and now the spiral is just going downhill. While if you then start to take that hour, whatever time for yourself, mentally, physically, even if it's just a short walk around the block, you will gradually start to feeling better. I achieved this goal, and maybe because I had to do that. I had to put my walks back on priority, and like, this is what I'm doing for myself. It's not for anybody else. It's for me. Ego, me. And that, do you agree with me saying that that is a hard thing for anybody, but especially entrepreneurs to do?
Of course, yes, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, if your brain's not there, it doesn't care if your body's. It doesn't matter if your body's there, right? You're not there. um, Especially with a lot of my clients who are working in these really like high stress jobs, or decisions have to be made, and you're the person making them. You can't rely on anybody else. So I think if you're not taking the time to work on your own health and wellness and mindset is, people say mindset is half the battle. It's really 70% of the battle. I mean, it really is, it's more than we think. But if your mind's not in the right place, or you're not clear of your goals or what you're trying to work toward, things get messy. So yeah, I think that having, like you said, it was important for you to, I'm going to start somewhere, right? I'm going to start with a small habit that I said I'm going to show up for myself, and I'm going to check that box off every single day when I do it, rain or shine, if I want to do it or not. But then it almost builds that habit. You're flexing that muscle of being accountable to yourself, saying, showing up for yourself finally. No, I think it's incredibly important. It's so much of what I do is helping people, audit themselves, find the time. What are small habits we can start with? I don't want to put you back in this burnout cycle. So what makes me a little bit different is we're not going, pedal to the metal from day one. We're actually trying to change you, into the person you
Right.
want to be. It's not just this quick, 3-month diet. Like, that's just not sustainable.
They give you 3 month hard diet. You going back to being as big as you were before you dieted, regardless of the results. Isn't that true? Huh?
Exactly. And yeah, I think in this health and wellness, realm, you see that a lot because it's an amazing business model if you think about it. Put them in this intensive program, get incredible results, burn them out in 3 months, and then they come see you in 3 months, and then you take their money
Right.
again, right? So that's why so many people do it that way.
Right.
And for me, it's not, about that I really want people to actually make changes. So much of it is, my physical therapy background, but it's all about the education. It's how are we changing you as a person? How are we actually getting to your goals and sticking with them and maintaining them? So it's really that culture of change here, which makes it just a little bit different than that really crazy, sometimes push or intensity that you see in other programs. Here in my program, all of us we are making change. We know it's going to take time, but we're going to be a better person on the end of that. So just a little bit of a culture shift there. I don't know if that makes
And
sense, but
absolutely. And it makes me think about every darn New Year that everybody gets that gym membership and they have all these goals and it's going to be so good. We got to work out all. Yeah, that lasted to the end of January, if even that. And we see it every year. Every year. Why is that?
it's because we have that reward model of we think, and it's funny because New Year's almost gives us, and unpopular opinion, but I think the New Year's gives us an excuse to, in August, say, I want to be different, but I'll just wait until January.
Wait until New Year. Yeah, let's start New Year. New Year, New Year.
It is. It's an excuse, and it's so funny. I mean, it's just a random day we made up. And I think that what's the biggest difference between someone who is successful and someone who is not the fact that both people can say, I want to be this person. Everyone can say that, but who shows up
Hmm.
and who
Right.
commits to it when it gets hard? A lot of people can do it for 7 days. A lot of people can do it for 2 weeks, but who shows up on day 100 of doing it for 100 consistent days, right? Those are the successful
Right.
people, the people who, everyone can shout from the rooftops, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this. That's easy to do, especially now with social media. You just post something, everyone sees it. But who
Right.
actually does it, right? And so it's just having those, and it's not about, a lot of people say it's motivation, motivation Monday, having the motivation. I've got motivation today. Motivation comes and goes. It's discipline,
Oh yeah.
right?
Absolutely. And also a little bit rewarding yourself. I took a walk even though I did not want to. It was the last thing on this planet Earth today I wanted to do. I got my butt out of the door. I took my dog and then actually pat yourself on the back and said, "Good job. You did it." And not like you don't have to do it, overdo it, but just show up for yourself. Do it and actually reward yourself, not with a piece of chocolate maybe, but at least with a tap on your back and say, "Good job."
Yeah.
I'm a chocolate person, so you know. But you transitioned from being a doctor of physical therapy to a wellness coach. How did that professional pivot reflect your personal transformation as well? Because I bet it's going from being employed to being self-employed and starting your own business, starting your own project must have included some kind of self transformation.
Oh, for sure. I think that being a business owner and starting a health and wellness journey of any type is a mirror. Because at the end of the day, making any sort of change in your mental schema of who you are is a self-development journey. And I'm sure any entrepreneur, any business owner, anybody who's been through a weight loss journey, or a bodybuilding, strength training journey can relate, because you have to change so many small pieces of who you are to be successful. And in doing so, you become a different version of yourself. And so, yeah, I think as I transitioned out of that insurance model and physical therapy, you're expected to show up a certain way, and you play the rule. You play the game, and you play by the rules. And I was very much doing that. Didn't like it, but I was very much doing that, and I felt that when I was in that model, my personal life and my own health and wellness took so much of a backseat because I was exhausted.
Right.
And yeah, I just didn't have the capacity by Thursday. I mean, I work Monday through Friday, but by Thursday I couldn't even, I'm a social person, couldn't even get off the couch. I was exhausted.
Jesus.
And
Yeah.
so whenever I made the jump and started my first business, my mobile PT practice, and then when I transitioned into wellness coaching, it's almost, you have a sort of ego death a little bit. I think for my healthcare providers, you can definitely relate to this if you get tied to your profession, right? Um,
Right.
I I identified as, I'm a physical therapist. It's what I do, and it was a really hard journey to get there. And so I had a lot of pride in saying that that's who I was, and I almost had to have some sort of ego death to say, okay, this is, now I'm starting my own thing. This is, it's a little bit different. And then whenever I made the jump to into wellness coaching, again, same thing, a little bit of an ego death for me of saying, this is what I'm going to do now. Maybe I don't have that title anymore, but I'm helping people so much more. And I have the ability to help more people in this space than I did when I had, whenever I was working under the license, under the title of being a physical therapist. So, yeah, I think for me personally, it was almost like I had some small ego deaths along the way. But in doing so, I was able to take myself away from what I was taught and maybe more of a traditional medical sense, and kind of bring in more holistic facets that make my patients get better faster. And we hit goals, months ahead of time versus whenever I was treating people in that insurance model. So,
And insurance models are, you hear all those things on social media. Why are we not curing cancer, for example? Because simply getting the medication for it, it's more financially beneficial for the medical companies than it is to actually treat it.
yes, definitely
So,
above my pay grade on the cancer question. But I will say that, I think traditional healthcare has its time and place, that it is,
hmm,
there's a reason modern medicine is where it's at. And it's phenomenal what we've got to. And there's been some amazing things that's come out of traditional medicine. But I think there's a time and place. I think when we start to use certain things as catch alls, or we start to use certain things as the answer to every single problem, and it's the same solution to 100 different problems, that's sending red flags up to me. It's like, maybe there's a different way. So I think, in my mind, and this kind of comes into play with, self-development and also health and wellness in general, everyone has a different response to a solution. Um, 5 people can have low back pain, and that's going to be completely different treatments. I think when we start giving them all the same treatment and expecting the same outcomes, that's when we start to have issues. And I think sometimes that's where we've been at in the traditional healthcare model, where it's like, give them a drug, give them a steroid injection, and they'll be fine. And drive me bananas. Now, if we can get a little bit more specific, can you give me actual reasons why we're doing the things we're doing? Okay, maybe. But I think traditional healthcare isn't a catch-all. I think Eastern and Western medicine both has its time and place. Neither one is the answer for everything. It's just being a good detective and seeing what's going on and giving it, the right diagnosis, plan of care, all of that.
and also, would you do, I see, come into preventative medicine and how we can prevent injuries, prevent sickness, prevent so many visits to the doctor and trying to fix what already happened. How much of your job is preventative versus post injury?
Yes, great question. So it's funny because I think preventative medicine is, it's almost the tone of it, or even saying medicine is interesting, because when people think of medicine, I mean, from me, I'm in America. This is how I think of medicine. As I'm thinking a drug, I'm thinking a surgery, I'm thinking something's wrong, I have to go to the doctor. I have to receive something. Whereas I think preventative medicine is very different. Technically, preventative medicine is movement. How am I feeling myself? What does my hydration look like? What does my nutrition look like? My sleep. How am I sleeping? What does my sleep habit look like? My relationships, my emotional well-being. My finances. How am I managing my finances? How am I managing my career? And all of this, really, well-being is 8 different facets of wellness. Physical wellness is one part of 8. So I think in our traditional healthcare model, we only look at the physical part. We're not addressing the other 7, which gets us a little bit in the conundrum of, okay, we're not actually making, progress, or maybe I'm supposed to feel better, but I don't feel better. Why? Because we're not addressing everything. And so I think preventative medicine is technically not what we think of, and we don't think of, food and water and sleep and, and rest and recovery and movement as medicine. But that's the way that I think that's where the shift is going, because that's actually what evidence is telling us is, what the number one miracle drug is, like that really can solve probably 80% of all diseases is
I have no clue. Help me.
movement. I mean, it's insane. Exercise.
Yeah,
And
that.
it's, and you think, you're like, oh yeah, trick question or like trick answer. But if you think about it, it's free. You can do it right now. There's no cost. So why is it so difficult for us to accept that? It's just interesting. And that's why, I started what I started, because I was like, my non-negotiable to be a client with me is you have to strength train. Like we can adjust anything else, but you are going to strength train. You are going to do resistance training. They're non-negotiable.
Right. And I had a lumbar puncturing done 5 years ago, and that went wrong, and they hit a nerve. And from that, I had a hip problem in nerves and muscles. And I have, thankfully, a PCP who's the best ever. And we together, he said, like, I can give you muscle relaxer, but this is going to go away the more you move, the more you walk, the more you work out and strengthen the muscles around it. It doesn't matter how much drugs I give you, because that's just going to mess up your stomach. So he literally he did some research for me and said, here, try this training program. And that's how I got into walking a lot. Um, and it just started like, yeah, walk 10 minutes, 15 minutes, progressively much better. And the first week I took muscle relaxer, and this is several years ago, and that was it. After that, my walking has made me not have any hip problems from that injury at all whatsoever. And as soon as I sit down for a longer time, like when I had COVID, for example, for like you're bedbound for a week, let's say you get the flu or COVID, I get that hip pain back right off the bat. Just have to get my butt out the door and walk again. And I think that is, and also my walk, find yourself something that clears your brain. It might not be walking, for me it is, but it might be going to the gym or riding a bike or whatever the case may be. Because we're talking so much today about mental health, and we need to improve that. Well, if you try to improve your own mental health first, how about that?
You're asking if, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
I asked, well, it was more of a statement that how about we start moving our body, because that is also helping your mental health. You clear your brain, you clear your head of whatever's going on, and you get that time away from quote unquote your problems.
Exactly, because and you hit the nail on the head there. Everything is connected. I think at the end of the day, we just, it sounds so simple, but if I do one thing, it's going to affect everything else, right? And part of that is the mental health, the physical health, emotional well-being is all technically one thing, but you can address it in so many different ways. And movement is one of them. Is, I mean, I'm sure you've had this where you're having a terrible day, you're exhausted, all these things, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to get out and go on a walk. And you
Oh
go
yeah.
out and you get up and go and do the walk, and it almost changes. You're able to look at things differently. You're able to, you're like, I'm in a better mood. That the dopamine's hitting, that adrenaline's happening, and it changes your day around. And so I think it's funny because you can't really, I mean, you can monetize movement, but movement is free. And so I think
Right.
that,
You don't just have a gym membership.
yeah, we just undervalue it. I think it's something that's always been there, and we try to complicate things. I think that's a big issue. Everything is just getting complicated. And people want complicated answers because it makes them feel like they worked really hard to get there. But really, at the end of the day, it's very simple. And if you want to get to your point B person, if you have a good detective, then the solution is usually pretty simple.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about earlier that people are stressed. They got to have a full calendar. Um, a lot of people think that slowing down is failure. You're not doing as good. And I am the first to admit that I was one of these people a couple of years ago, and it has taken me a lot of mental strength to start to come over it because I still fall into this habit and trap. Um, that I think that, yeah, just if I slow down, I am failing myself, I'm failing my family, my friends, everybody around. How do you help your clients refine productivity and success and regain that happiness? Because I have to admit, yeah, slowing down ain't a failure. It is taking care of yourself, in my mind.
Um, I'm so happy you brought this up because this is an underlying mental block that probably 99% of my clients have is we free up the time, we make it easier, and then they're almost trying to find things to fill the time to make they almost crave the stress or the chaos, right? I can relate
Yeah.
too. It's like I live in controlled chaos. If I'm not in my state of controlled chaos, then something's wrong. I'm not doing enough. I'm not, like I could be doing all these other things. But what we work on is we work on shifting the mindset of that hustle culture to a more harmonized day to day life. What would it mean for you if you had the same output, but you could do less during the day and all these things are still happening, right? Where you actually are able to sit for an hour and just say, I can sit for an hour because everything is getting done and I did all I needed to do. I mean, I have to sit with my clients and say, actually imagine what that would feel like because they can't because they for
Yeah.
years have been so used to like they can't even sit for 5 minutes. I mean, and don't even talk to me about starting to have kids. Now you have kids and you're never alone, right? But what would it mean for you to truly be able to take an hour and not feel guilty? And it is so much mindset work here that we have to do. Like I said, health and wellness is a self and development journey. My program, we mindset is like a third of what we work on because it's so important. If you don't change the way you think about things, you're not really changing. You're just putting a skin on, right? But you're really the same person that has the same mindset of your point A version of yourself. Then you're never going to be your point B version. And so I try to think about it this way too: is productivity really isn't doing more. It's about doing the right things with the right presence. If I can get it
Right.
done in 30 minutes, let's get it done in 30 minutes. Let's not waste my time and take 3 hours so that I feel productive. So
Right.
it's mindset shifts there. But yes, this is something that all my clients deal with is that hustle culture. I have to be doing 10 things at once. I have to have a 5 to-do calendars and list and I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And I was very much that person. That's why I can relate because and of course I still struggle with this, but I feel like I'm finally been able to do enough work on myself where it's okay for me to take an hour and read a fun book that isn't about self development, isn't about business leadership, and just enjoy a coffee on the porch. And I want my clients to get to a place to be able to do that and still get everything they need to get done, but being able to actually slow down and take the time and enjoy your life. We're working so hard for a reason, right? Let's enjoy it
Right.
now while we're in the process of becoming. Um, yeah.
And what I do for myself, so I have the advantage. I don't really have a family. I have my dog and my cat at home, but I don't have a husband or kids that interrupt my day, so to say. Like this week is an extremely busy week for me. I have speeches, I have podcast recordings. It's my regular job. It's just a slammed week with stuff. And I know that it's going to end on Sunday. Sunday, when I get off my regular EMS job on Monday morning, it's over and done with. So, what I have done already today is I have planned that on Monday, when I get home, my phone is going to be off. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to take my walk. I'm going to go and be with my horses. Um, I'm taking that day off. It is scratched out in black. And I even wrote on Facebook, FYI, if you want to reach me on Monday, I am unreachable. You can send me an email and I will address it on Tuesday. End of story. So everybody already now, almost a week ahead, knows that next Monday is not going to happen anything in my life. I am taking that, I'm allowing myself to take that personal day after having a stressful week. How often do you see people being able to do that? I get that you can't really allow yourself doing that in the way I can because I don't have a family and I don't have the quote unquote family obligations. But is that something that you recommend others to do if they can or their life allows?
Yeah, I think that that's a good opportunity. I think it's great to be able to take a day and just take off and not have to worry about anything. But I would challenge you to, I would actually want you to get in a place where you don't feel the need to have to get there, right? Where every day is a balanced day. That's what I'm trying to implement, is to where you don't feel like we're going to go crazy for 7 days and I'm going to just black off a day because I'm exhausted and you know this.
It
So
also gives me something to look forward to. I am
that's
encouraged by it because I'm like, woohoo, I can do this because I will get Monday off and I can just cut everything. So I see it as a motivation.
And I love that. I think that's a great, like, if that works for you, awesome. Love it. But with my clients, I try to get them in a space where they don't feel the need to be exhausted to earn the reward,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
And so it's,
That sounds really nice. So
yes. And but that is, I mean, I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I think that so many of us do that. We feel like we have to punish ourselves to get the reward. We have to punish ourselves to live a nice day, to live our ideal life. I have to be exhausted. I have to be sore. I have to be burnt to the ground to be able to take a day off where I enjoy it. This is normal. This is common. And so it's trying to reframe that, especially here in the States. That is our mindset. It's the hustle culture, it's the grind, it's the American dream. Like, you got to work hard to get the
Mhm.
reward. But the issue is sometimes what happens is we're always waiting for there. We're always waiting, I made it. But where is there? When is I made it? And
On
in the
Monday.
process of becoming that person, we forget to enjoy the process, right? But because if there is an unknown variable, then we work to the ground, we burn ourselves for this like carrot that we never hit, and then you don't enjoy your life. And so trying to reframe it of let's enjoy every day, let's find a balance for you look forward to Tuesday. You don't have the Sunday scaries, quote unquote, because Monday isn't awful. Finding a
Right.
way to balance every day so every day is enjoyable and I'm not just waiting for the weekend, waiting for my Monday after my 7 day sprint. And of course there are phases in our life where it's hard and we are going through sprints and that's gonna happen. But overall, my hope is for my clients is to find balance and putting in those routines and habits to where most days are good days. Most days are your Monday, where you're feeling good and you're happy and you can enjoy your life. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people feel stuck. Just not just women, but women and men. What and kind of like in quote unquote survival mode. What suggestions or what do you recommend for these people to do that feel this survival mode or stuck to just get this first step? Because it in my mind it's at least just about taking this first step and then the second step.
Yes, so I recommend three things. First steps, three things, break it down. Number one, start with a small, like, habit stack movement. So, what's something that you already do every single day? I hope everyone brushes their teeth. I hope. Now, maybe that's not the
Oh
case, but
yeah.
I hope everyone brushes their teeth. So, if you're struggling with finding time to get movement in, every time you brush your teeth, do 10 squats while you're brushing your teeth. Every time you brush your teeth, do calf raises, do a wall sit, something like that, where I am already doing something. I'm already spending time brushing my teeth. Why not multitask? So find a movement habit stack in your day already. Number one. Number two, I want you to think of food as fuel for your body. I would challenge you in every single meal that you eat to have four things: a protein, a carb, a healthy fat, and some sorts of fiber. If you can get all four of those things in a meal, more than likely you're going to be eating the right things. Okay. And then number three, I want you to try to automate your systems. What this means is meal prep on Sunday. That way, Monday through Friday, don't even think about it. Grab it and go. I'm laying out my clothes the night before. I'm packing my bag for work the night before, right? My coffee pot is already set. But when you automate your systems, you actually take yourself out of a place of, at the end of the day, it's 7 o'clock, you had a long day, and you don't know what you want to eat for dinner. You almost have decision fatigue. I'm tired of making decisions. I don't even want to think about it, so I'm just going to grab the first thing I see on the way home. Well, let's take out that and say, I already know what I'm having for dinner because I already made it in the fridge. I can warm it up. Or a crock pot meal. Perfect. I know you said that earlier. Like, already made. You're done. You don't have to worry about it. But those are the three things I would challenge you to start with. Have a stack of movement with something you're already doing. Fuel your body with 4 different things: protein, carb, healthy fat, and fiber. And then number 3, automate a system. Just pick one. But if you can start with those three things, that's already saving you about 5 hours a week just doing that.
I was just about to say, this sounds like a big time saver all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's small changes. Again, that's my whole thing is I'm simplifying it. It's all about simplicity. We're not going to get complicated. Everything's complicated these days. I'll simplify it. I know exactly what you need. It's just being a good detective, doing that really good audit with my clients and saying, okay, let's make these small shifts. You're going to save so much time. Now that we have the time, let's enjoy it. Let's not pack it with stuff, but breaking down those walls. So exactly.
Just take the small steps, one after another.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samantha. Anything you would like to say before we finish the show? I think you kind of like nailed it with your last here, your 4 tips or 3 tips what to do.
Yeah, of course. I am currently, working with one-on-one clients. This is what I love to do. I help busy women simplify their fitness. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. If you want more information, I have social media channels where I give out free education all the time on what's worked for my clients, what works for me. And so you definitely feel free to give me a follow. And I have a couple of free guides out there as well that you can download and just start that journey as well. And then I am offering free discovery calls through the end of the next couple of months for my one-on-one program. So that's how you can work with me and how you can kind of get that education on anything that I'm working on right now with my clients.
And all your information will be both on our website, wichmannco.com, and in the show notes and on our social media. So just go there. If you're sitting in your car and listening to this, just go online and you will easily find all Dr. Samantha's contact information and channels. And yes, I have followed you for quite a bit now on social media, and it's great show content and stuff you share there. So go and follow her. It's absolutely worth it. You're doing a great job on your social media for sure.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Keep it up. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun. And I hope that the listeners are feeling a little bit inspired. It's just about starting taking the small steps one after another. And you got some tips of what to do. Again, thank you, Samantha. And for you listeners, I will see you and listen and talk to you in 2 weeks. Have a great time until then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.